Welcome to Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 210. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs. We answer your questions on running and operating your computer repair business. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We have John Dubinsky from the Maven Group. How you doing, John?
Rise and shine. I'm just happy to be here.
Also joining us, we have back Paco Lebron from ProdigyTeks. How you doing, Paco?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good. And we lost your video. There he is now. And also joining us, we have Brad Torrey from TTCS Computer Services joining us again because he just loves to hang out. How you doing, Brad?
Well, it's raining in Southern California, so look out. Anything could happen.
Oh, whatever. All right, let's go ahead and get started with a few tips to get us going. Let's go ahead and start with Brad and let us know something that we can use in our businesses to either learn from or help ourselves out.
Couple things. So the fun stuff first. I've been playing. This has been keeping me motivated to work. I've been kind of playing with Internet of Things stuff, and so my favorite one so far has been the Chromecast audio. We put those all throughout the house, and you can create groups and stuff. And so now when I'm walking around, like, the music is playing in every room, and it's just kind of nice. It's interesting. I didn't realize that I missed music so much, and I don't really like wearing earbuds all the time. So it's just been a nice little thing. And for a very low price point and everything, you just kind of throw those on any little speaker everywhere, and you got music. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
And then,
hey, Brad, before you go on, let me ask you something related to that. How are you streaming your like video and all that? Do you use a Roku box, or are you using Chromecast for that? Do you have
Chromecast?
All Chromecast. So you're all Chromecast all the time.
Yeah, all Chromecast all the time. We don't even have cable. We just have Chromecasts on our TVs.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, I'm doing that with Roku right now, but I think I'm going to Chromecast. All right, sweet. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. There's with Chromecast video streaming. Actually, with all the Chromecast stuff, there are glitches, and every once in a while you have to like close the app and close it down and stuff. Like, but
oh hell, I got to do that with my Roku. Heck, I have to do that with my Roku.
There he goes again.
Yeah. So, it's only 1 minute into the show. Come on.
Man, you didn't make it long at all. Yeah, no, the problems aren't enough to like discourage you from using it, I think. I mean, I know I have clients that if they ask me, I feel them out a little bit. And I go, no, you're not a Chromecast person because you can't handle the smallest little glitch going on. So it's not for you. But for most people, it's cool. My parents like it, and my parents hate tech. So,
well, and Google never breaks, right?
Are you using Chromecast, just a regular Chromecast, or using the Chromecast the one that does 4K, the high HD one?
We've had ours for a while, so I'm not going to bother with the 4K one for a while. I don't even have a TV that can play 4K.
I'm not even interested in the 4K. I'm just interested that it has an Ethernet connection.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I mean our Wi-Fi's been fine. So
okay, roger that.
Cool.
But as far as like more business stuff, this week or the last like 2 weeks really have been kind of making me rethink policy a little bit about like large jobs, larger projects. Like for instance, I have 2 customers that are both moving offices, and there's a lot. They're both doing some minor construction or in like painting and reflooring and stuff in their new. Well, one of them's an architect office, so they're going nuts. Like they're doing this place. It's going to look like a Silicon Valley kind of office when they're done with it. It's gonna they did it up like it's all like a Google kind of caliber remodel they did inside. But the other one, it's pretty basic. It's a professional office. They wanted to have a nice, they put in new flooring and they did some stuff. All that said, and then there's new internet going in. So between the internet installs and the contractors and the paint and everything else, all of these moves were supposed to have been completed a month ago, and they're both still pending. So I like lay out all this time and planning to be available to go in and do like finish up wiring and move computers and things like that. And we get a couple days before and it's like, oh no, just kidding. It's going to be another week. And so all the time that I'd kind of blocked off to do this job is now I got to find something else to do that time in a hurry or else I'm out. That's just all the revenue that was allocated for those days is gone. So it kind of made me rethink, like, a few years ago, I helped a company or a restaurant get their point of sale installed, and the vendor, which is a very, very large point of sale vendor, they schedule everything out a month in advance, and they tell you this is what needs to be completed when we show up. So when we show up with our stuff, you need to have these particular jacks, these power, like all this stuff needs to be ready to go for us. If it's not, we just walk away, and we send you a bill for $500 and reschedule. So, and it'll be another month before we can come back.
Wow. Okay.
That's their policy. And so you can give them a week's heads up and say, hey, you know, there's delays. Let's push it out a little bit if we can. And then you can avoid all that. But they do that so that you don't screw with their time.
Right.
They don't, you know, you schedule something, they show up and you're not ready to roll. And now they've allocated this tech and this equipment and all this stuff on these resources to have this install, and they can't do it. That costs them money. So because of both companies running into these kind of delays, all this revenue that I kind of blocked off and the time for the last month, I'm having to like scramble a little bit. And so now I'm having to rethink when these things come up, like you need to have some kind of a policy in place like that company had, like to cover your butt. Cause it's been a little rough this month.
I don't think it's anything new. A lot of other industries do that. You miss your dental appointment, normally you get a little charge, you know.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think that's unfair at all. Yeah. And maybe after a couple stings or whatever, they'll respect your time a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I am charging them when I go on site, and,
sure.
and there's like painters in the network closet. And I'm like, well, obviously I can't do any wiring today. I charge them a trip and I charge them an hour. But that's not like the $3,000 I was going to charge them for terminating the patch panel.
Right. Right.
So.
Okay. Plus all that lost time, because now you can't. You either got to find something to fill that like now.
Yep.
Just because it's convenient, or you're right. You're going home and playing video games. Yeah, I hear you.
It's actually why I started getting into this. Putting in Wemo switches and lights and stuff in my house. I'm like, well, I got dead time, so I got to play.
I'm actually planning to do that in my own house too, to get the Wemo switches.
Yeah, they're fun.
I got an Amazon Echo, so I heard that it hooks up to that too. So
yeah, yep. So we're in the like weird. Because I'm relying on Chromecast stuff. I'm kind of stuck waiting for Google Home. I want to do second generation. I don't want a first generation Google automated product. So, but we got one Hue light bulb. Anyway,
nice.
Like slowly rolling it out.
Somebody told me that you can't use Google Home with your Google Apps calendar. Is that true? Or G Suite? Excuse me.
Probably.
I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised because they did that with Google Fi. When they rolled out Google Fi, you needed to have a Gmail account versus a Google Apps or a G Suite account. And I don't know if they have ever updated that. I jumped off since then, but
Fi, you still can't get Fi with the G Suite account.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, I can connect my Alexa to the Sun Comes Home.
Yeah.
My Google
G
stuff.
Suite's always behind, or Google Apps, whatever it's called this week.
Yeah, but only with Google.
Yeah, exactly.
I know with everybody else. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Still waiting for the new contacts.
Whatever.
I had it. I switched back.
Well.
All right, John. So what other things? What do you got going on that's we can learn from?
Well, you want to talk about that wireless problem you were having?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Once you fired up.
All right, I'll go next. So basically, what do you do when you have somebody brings you a laptop and says, "Hey, my Wi-Fi keeps disconnecting." It's not a whole lot of information to go on. You bring it into your network, you hook it up to the Wi-Fi, it works perfectly fine. It doesn't drop not once. You open up the browser's not crashing, it's not freezing, nothing. So how do you troubleshoot something when somebody brings you the computer in shop versus being at their house? And that's one of the problems I ran into this week. It's like, I can't really find a problem with this computer. Now, one thing I have seen in the past that have dropped Wi-Fi will be two antiviruses fighting against each other. It'll disconnect and reconnect all day long. And it's different intervals. It could be 20 minutes. It could be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And so that happens. And a lot of times when I go in and look at software, I go, oh, yeah, I see what's going on. and I'll fix the problem. But when you have a Wi-Fi problem and it's not doing it on your network, what do you do? And John came up with a couple suggestions today. So what were those, John?
Well, the first thing, I think the only thing you can do when you get it in the shop is just make sure you have the latest, either a Wi-Fi driver or Wi-Fi firmware and all that on the equipment that you have right there. That's about, and check some software aspects like you did, antivirus or, whatever else you can. Because if it's working good on your gear, I mean, that would tell me that they have a problem in their location with their gear. Especially, I think your user told you that everything else stays connected. It's just the computer.
Yes.
So the first thing I thought, or we talked about, was, well, let's look at their access point or router. How old or ancient is that thing? And does that thing have a firmware update?
Exactly. Yep.
Number two, probably one of my favorite stories about Wi-Fi is at a medical office where every day around lunch, the Wi-Fi just didn't work at all. And we determined that it was because when everybody was heating up their food in the microwave, it just totally torched the Wi-Fi because we could just reproduce it, on a whim. So if we came in and we made a breakfast burrito in the morning, the Wi-Fi went down. So either that microwave, I don't remember the brand or anything, but obviously we were getting irradiated or whatever with microwaves throughout the office, and that would just interfere. So they got a different microwave and the problem just totally went away. So I can't totally explain what happened or why, but so I would suggest what changed in their network, meaning maybe they got an old cordless phone they decided to plug in, maybe their microwave. I've had a popcorn popper do this in a business where it just scrambles up the Wi-Fi during that time. So the other thing I've been looking at for home networks, and I'll get your guys' opinion on this, is, I think a home router after 2-3 years probably needs replaced because it's just a board in a plastic box. It's sitting somewhere roasting 24/7, in my opinion. What do you guys think about the mesh home networking products like Eero, or Google has one coming, or what's the other one? There's a couple of them out now. Any of you guys deployed that or thought about any of that?
Now, Google's is just a rebranded TP-Link, though, isn't it?
No. I'm not talking about the cylinder tube thing. I'm talking about they have one where it's like you buy 3 of the devices, one acts as your router, and then they automatically all mesh together to expand.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of just like Open Mesh, but it's sort of Open Mesh for dummies for a home network.
Okay.
And Eero's claim to fame, and I don't know if the others do this, is supposedly they will bandwidth shape for you. So if they see you're doing a lot of Netflix, they will automatically try to adjust your internal and your external network to work best with Netflix. Supposedly, I don't know.
No,
That
I
would be an
haven't deployed
interesting algorithm, but okay. Is anybody else using any of that stuff?
I've only heard about Eero from like other podcasts advertising it. Sounds cool, but we have Ubiquity access points in my house and a few other businesses, and they're you can't get the standard ones. I got one that so they have a long range model and a non-long range model. The regular non-long range model has a range of like 20 feet. Like it's worthless. But the long range one's excellent. It covers I have one at each kind of almost end of the house, and it's like a Venn diagram. They both overlap pretty well. So no matter which one you're hooked up to, you got pretty decent speeds. I actually met with one of the lead engineers for TP-Link at a trade show, and their kind of mesh access point line, they're working on a new firmware update that they're hopeful that the roaming capabilities where you move around and the access points hand you off is going to be blow away everybody else. So I'm kind of waiting to see if that happens with them. But they're awesome because you can get a couple access points, you get good Wi-Fi coverage. You don't have to tell people, okay, there's 3 Wi-Fi access points on your network. This is Wi-Fi 1, Wi-Fi 2, and Wi-Fi 3. And when you're over at this end of the house, hook up to that one. And, they just kind of toss you around and it works. So I like them.
Interesting. Okay.
Trying to think of something simple, stupid for the home user.
Well, and that's why
I like Ubiquity. I like Open Mesh, but I mean, they're not going to manage that.
No. And
all these devices, all these you just manage from your phone.
And that's why I like a router that that'll have many antennas on it so that you can push that signal out from your front yard to your backyard throughout your whole house versus having separate devices. I'm always weary of having separate devices inside my house because the more you put in, usually the more problems you have as a general rule. I haven't found anything that's like 100% that just works all the time. I found stuff that's 90% there, maybe 10% lacking. And everybody's got the magic bullet, right? We're going to crack the code. We've been using the same technology for the last 20 years, but we're going to crack that code. Okay.
Back to our question, the other things you could do, I mean, if nothing's changed, I mean, it's tough to say, but other things like in a lot of the cable provider routers and all that, a lot of times I'll go in there and I'll adjust the Wi-Fi settings so that's not trying to do multi-channel or multi-bandwidth, meaning it's not trying to push out a, G, B, and N signal all at the same time, even though a lot of the customers' gear won't do that. I'll just push out the BG and simplify it just to WPA2, try to simplify the network for compatibility. That could be something you would look at.
Now, what would change, though, if it had been working since they updated to Windows 10? It had been working fine for 4 months. In over the last 2 months, now there was 1607 came within the last month or so, right? And before that, you had 15, whatever, I can't remember the number, but what would have changed? Because I looked at the Wi-Fi driver, and it's a Raylink. Wi-Fi driver was updated, or looked like it was updated.
Well, maybe that's the problem. Let's go back. If everything was working peachy up until what we think is the update time, so maybe the update changed the driver. So again, I would look at physically, what's up with the location, what changed at their location. Did their router fall off the shelf and now is back behind something like that? Or maybe they added something else that's interfering. Or I would look at a firmware update in the equipment. Again, you're kind of SOL if it's,
firmware update in the route, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Those exist.
Anthony was troubleshooting 2 different Windows 10 machines, completely different hardware, both having intermittent Wi-Fi dropout issues. And in both cases, he eventually ended up just literally going into Device Manager and telling it to look for new updates. And it found some, and it installed them, and it fixed the problem. So although you were saying that in your situation, that it's working fine in your environment, right?
Correct.
In your Wi-Fi. So it sounds less like a driver, but maybe they have a different, their router's broadcasting on a different, it's hooking up to a different thing, and it's not the signal that it's picking up in your Wi-Fi that it's having issues with, but it's the signal there.
Right. And that's what I'm thinking.
There could always be chipset issues or compatibility issues between a Raylink driver and I don't know.
Did you find a solution, or are you still looking into it?
It's hard to. This is one of those things where it's hard to troubleshoot the solution because it works here.
Right. So for me, if that happened, that's a scheduled onsite.
Oh no, I don't like to go.
No, I know you don't, but essentially that's.
I'm trying to avoid that, Paco.
Well, hey, I'm just saying. Do you want to make a customer happy? But hey, I get what you're saying. But there's only so much that a customer can do on their end as you're telling them remotely if it's not done on your end. Because if it works on your end, everything's working fine. You can't replicate the issue. You got to reproduce the issue in the same environment and repeat the same steps of navigation. So
I agree. You're disappointing me, but I agree.
I'm just saying.
Actually, you're
got to be social, Jeff. Got to get out there and be social.
Right.
Oh, man. All right. So I think we'll go on from there. And Paco, what do you got to share with us this week?
Best advice I can give is if you guys have documentation when you're accepting laptops, make sure you fill them out properly and accurately. And if you ever doubt yourself, just make sure you get in the habit of doing it consistently. I had an issue this past week or 2 weeks ago where it was a screen replacement. Got it done within about a week, 4 days or something like that. Client calls me the day after he picked it up saying that we forgot to give him his Bluetooth dongle adapter that was plugged into the laptop. So looked at the paperwork, only checked in that there was a laptop and AC adapter. I know I'm pretty good at notating everything that's been dropped off at our shop. And then as I was repairing it, I was trying to remember if I would have even remembered the dongle even being connected on there. Maybe I forgot to write it down or something like that. And I remember flipping it around a couple times to get the bezel off from the screen. So I knew for a fact that it wasn't there. So I was more confident to say, hey, look, can you take a look again just to make sure? Sure enough, he had it with his stuff or whatever the case. But in the event that something were to happen in that case, it's one of those where if you're not doing it consistently and you're not doing it with any type of notations, or your paperwork is not done all the time, this may be a situation where you may come out of pocket for something that really is not your responsibility. So something to keep in mind. And I think I'm going to start probably taking pictures of the laptops when they get dropped off, just as a for sure fire. Hey, look, this is when you dropped it off. As you can see from the images, there is nothing connected to it. And
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real good idea.
So,
Paco, what would you have done if you would have put up a fight and said you do have it?
Oh, I did. Well, I mean, not in that sense, but I did tell him to check again because we don't show that it was checked in when it was dropped off. Now, if he would have fought it, it was $15. I probably would have just bought the dongle just because to avoid a bad review and just, customer service. Now, if it was something like, I don't know, a $300 accessory or something like that, then no, yeah, I'm not coming out of pocket for that. It wasn't checked in, and that's what it was. You signed in what we checked in. That was that. So.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, take those photos and attach them to your whatever file system you're using.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and we're going to take a quick break, and we will come back with our main topic. New release. I want to let everybody know about it because we haven't talked about this much, and this is new. New release of Crypto Prevent version 8. Crypto Prevent malware protection is a robust antivirus, anti-malware software supplement, which is, I love how they put this, filling a huge gap that exists with the traditional security solutions to provide protection against a growing multitude of new and emerging ransomware and other malicious software threats. Crypto Prevent is designed to peacefully coexist along with other solutions, create no detachable or detectable impact in normal system performance, demand no time for maintenance, nor requiring any specialized user knowledge for usage. Crypto Prevent supports any Windows version, XP, Vista, 7, 8, 8.1, and 10, including Windows Home editions. So this is another, what I would call a layered approach, something else you can add on the system that will help protect you from those encrypting ransomwares. And basically what Nick over at Foolish IT has done is he's taken what you can do on a server with group policies, and he's moved it so that those same policies can be put on a home system. And basically, now again, I'm not a programmer, and Nick would be much, much better at explaining this. But my understanding is those policies that you could go in and put manually on a server to protect the customers from ransomware, he does it through this piece of software. And you basically set it up, you let it do what you want it to do. And there's a free version, and there's a couple paid for versions that you guys can check out. And go over to foolishit.com and check that out, because everybody's always wondering, how do I protect myself from ransomware? How do I protect myself from my customers getting bit by that bug? And again, there's no one perfect solution. So again, a lot of times we talk about using that layered approach. And I think this is another layer that you can definitely check out. All right, let's go on to our main topic, which I totally forgot what it was. No, I'm just kidding. Topic for today is do what you're good at and the money will follow. Is that true? If you just do the things that you're good at, will the money follow? Or do you just have to take every job that comes your way because, man, you're out there getting it and you got to make a living? Now, you'll be old and gray and, halfway in the grave if you do it that way, in my opinion. But a lot of people will take just any job that comes their way. And in the beginning, I will say this, everybody's going to do that. And that's okay, because what you're doing is you're going to learn the things that you actually are good at and the things that, I could probably outsource that because I'm not really that good at it. And so I have a belief, if you do the things that you love to do or like to do or are good at, I think if you do that often enough, you create a niche in the marketplace and the money will come in and you will be able to support yourself in your repair business. John, what do you say to that? Might need to unmute yourself first because we can't hear you.
Oh, I clicked on Paco. I didn't unmute myself. So we're talking about in the aspect that I've already started my business, and therefore I'm just going to do what I love inside of my business and not take work that I don't like.
Correct.
Because if I back up and I say I'm going to start a business because of my passion, I would say that is the wrong thing to do. But I would probably rephrase the question. If you do what you love, is maybe the question the money won't matter so much, as in the money will follow. I'm going to put a couple links in the show notes. There's a couple books on this subject. There are also a couple reasons. I'm going to put a couple sites that say this is nonsense, that there's a lot of reasons why not to do this. I think Brad just mentioned something at the beginning when he was telling his story that when you own the business, I don't think you can segment to your passions only, meaning you may love to do computer repair, but if you own the business, you got to worry about your marketing, your billing, all that paperwork, your documentation. I don't know anybody that really loves to do network documentation and diagramming and all that kind of stuff. If you do, call me. I might have a job for you.
Well, there's people, I'm sure.
So, if I think about it, your passion doesn't really run your business. And a lot of the times, if you let it, the business will crush your passions. You get too busy, you get too worn out, you get too much into what we call the grind. When you own your business, and they call it the grind because every day it's just decisions between doing it the right way and the easy way. So a lot of the times, if you're not careful, your business might kill your passions. Now, on the positive end, if you're working and you are passionate about your business, I think that shows. And I think that's why a lot of people don't have to do a whole lot of marketing and really win at the word of mouth. Because if you walk into a client place and you're passionate about the business and they realize that they're getting that best effort no matter what, just because your passion runs deep into it, I think that does, because that's going to get you a lot of clients. If you're good at what you do what you say you're going to do, I think it's really hard to fake that. So I think you see a lot of the times that, we all complain about the cable tech that shows up that really doesn't care, but if you get a good cable tech that's passionate about what he does, don't you try to get his number so you can say, hey, can you do my install next time?
Absolutely.
So I think once you've decided to run your business and that you have the passion for that, you better make sure that you have the passion for the rest of it too. Passions be damned,
Okay. Paco, what about you?
I actually agree with this statement. I believe that if you do what you are good at, the money will follow, for the mere fact that you're good at it, and the things that you're not good at clearly show. So it kind of ties into what John was saying, where if you are passionate about learning and keeping up and just being good, continue to keep being good at what you do, you're going to continue to keep getting you're going to get known for that. Right. And especially with a lot of the customers that you're doing it well for them, that word will spread. Whereas you decide to take on a job and after maybe 2 or 3 of them, you've come to realize I'm really not that good, but it still gives me 3 times more money than any of the others. So it still goes back to doing what's right and doing what's easy. Right. So it's easy to take those jobs, screw up and say, okay, you still got to pay me, versus turning those jobs down and growing it slowly but efficiently and more long-term with longevity. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
I agree with that too. I struggle with the passion comment, just because when you equate it into business ownership, I don't know if I'm explaining this right. Because when you own a business, you have to remember that you have to be passionate about everything, because you always have somebody on your heels. There's always somebody chasing you. There's always, an enemy that you're fighting that has no fatigue, and that is yourself. Meaning, are you getting lazy? Are you getting laxed? Are you getting unmotivated? Because if you don't go hunt it down and kill it, you don't make any money. So, passion will get you up in the morning, but the rest of the business might kill that passion. I keep going back to it. Like if you're passionate about digging graves and that's what you want to do, you might be the world's most passionate grave digger. But if you start your own grave digging business and all of a sudden you got to do the books and the invoicing and set the appointments and pay for the insurance and schedule everything, blah, 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 you might lose your passion for that job pretty quick. So, I think there's a balance in there.
Yeah, and I think what we're mostly talking about is obviously there's going to be certain things you're going to have to do in your business, right? You're going to have to do your taxes. You're going to have to do your accounting, all this kind of stuff. Now, a lot of that stuff you can outsource over time, but in the beginning, you're probably going to have to do some of that.
Right.
But after a while, hey, if you're not good with numbers and you keep screwing your books up and you spend more time trying to fix that, it's probably time to outsource that particular item itself, regardless. And I think when it comes to picking jobs, you have to go, okay, you know what? There are people, myself included, that will not open up a phone to save my life. That phone will go in the garbage. I'm not doing it. I'm not changing screens. I'm not doing all it. Now there's people that, man, they run their whole business on that, and that's what they love to do, and they've found a way to do it, and they've made it theirs, and they're doing fine. But for me, I don't want to. And I guess here's where I come from. When you look at a lot of people in business, will say we got to move from this. And I'll use the stupid examples that everybody uses, which I cannot stand and hate. We're going to move from break fix to MSP. Oh, the reality is you don't have to.
Easy, Kelly.
There is people who are making a living and doing well at break fix and have been able to do it at such a point of where they're able to make their time valuable, spend time with their family, do all these kind of things. They're not just running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And then there's other people, John, who are doing MSP, so to speak, that are basically, that's all they do. And they are in that support mode, and that is their function of business. They don't deal with that other stuff. So I guess my point is there are different things that people are good at. And sometimes instead of trying to chase everybody else or what the next idea guy says, hey, this article says we need to do this and I'm going to do that. No, do what you like and you will take care of yourself over time. So that's kind of the standpoint where I come from. Before we go on, I want Brad to chime in on his thought process. Go ahead, Brad.
I think from a philosophical standpoint, this makes sense. You do more of the things that you enjoy, figure out another way to, offload things that you don't like doing, and the money will follow. From a practical standpoint of starting up a business, you're going to have to pick up and do stuff that you don't like to do, because that's what you got, and that's where the money's coming from today. But as you grow your business and learn over the years, I know this has been my case, I've taken on and done all kinds of stuff. I did a full office wiring gig one time, and I got it done, and it was done well and everything, but I didn't enjoy it, and it felt like a time suck for me. So I don't do that anymore. I have a couple of guys that I like working with that are contractors that pull cable. And whether I terminate it or not kind of depends on the job and who's doing what's going on. But I don't like pulling cable. I don't like crawling through crawl spaces. I don't like hauling ladders around and popping up ceiling panels and doing I don't do that stuff. I have somebody else do it. I did it at one point because somebody asked me to get it done, and I needed the money, so I didn't want to pay somebody else to do it. So I did it. But over time, I know I've learned that I'm not good at web design. I have somebody else do that. So the more you sort of evolve, you start focusing your energy on the things that you are good at, and that's just where your business will go. And those are the things that people will key on. Where, like you've said, I'm passionate about, kind of just business solutions. When I've got an office of people that get really amped on all of a sudden all these little stupid issues that they just kind of thought were part of their day-to-day grind would just go away because we've automated some stuff because they were using janky setups from PizzaTeks or whatever, whatever. Or they just were doing their own IT, and it didn't work well. And all of a sudden you come in and you spend like an hour, and all of a sudden they're like, their life's changed. And that kind of stuff gets me excited. So people, they get that from me when I walk in and I'm like, hey, we're going to do this and that. And I walk them through everything, and they're just like, oh my God. And I get happy. And that's what tends to be what gets passed on is word of mouth, and that's what I get more of. I get more of those business relationships, but no one's ever going to refer me out to pull cable because I hate doing it. And anybody that's ever heard me talk about it knows that I don't like doing it. So
I think there's a lot of times too where you're, like you've said, you're going to have to do those jobs maybe every once in a while, but maybe that's not your mainstay of what your business is all about. You've concentrated on the things that you like to do, the things that you're good at, and you stick with that versus going out there and doing it. But sometimes, hey, I'm going to step back. Okay, they need it done. I know how to do it. I'm going to do it. It's not going to be enjoyable. So even John has said, this is not a black and white area. And that's the whole point of having this conversation. This is really a gray area. And we need to figure out, sometimes we have to bend and break a little bit, and that's okay. So just understand that you don't necessarily have to follow the way everybody else does it, is my whole point. Because I think if you try to follow somebody else's business, I think in the end, you will be pulling your hair out, if you have any left, John, or other things will, your health and everything will degrade over time. So I think you have to figure that out in the beginning and just kind of make yourself understand that I don't have to be like everybody else. I can be me and figure out what's going to work for me. Those are the successful businesses that I've seen over time, is where people go in. And again, we get a lot of different suggestions from other technicians, from other business owners, and things that we go, hey, I never thought about that. Let me try that. And you go try, and it helps you out in your business. So that's really what this is all about.
Well, in business, I would define passion from the aspect of, you're continuing to be committed to whatever you're doing and chasing your goal, whether there's success or failure. Meaning, even if you fail a few times, you're still passionate about it if you're still chasing it. It's
Did
not
you learn
just
something?
Yes, you're still you're still focused on it. You still have that ability to learn, and even though you may have failed, and whatever failure is, you didn't grip those cables the first time, or the server is now smoking, something like that. But you're still moving on. If you just quit, you weren't very passionate about it. So I think you have to have a lot of that to be any kind of business owner or in business, because not everything works. Obviously, how many RMMs have I tried in the past year? So I'm pretty passionate about finding the one I want. So
there you go, full circle.
And so, I go back to what Brad said at the beginning. Passion also goes, you're always looking for potential solutions, no matter where they come. So Brad ran into a scheduling problem. It didn't work out for him. So what did he do? He went back to the house and started messing with Internet of Things, because he's passionate about tech. Is that a fair statement, Brad?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, last week I was listening to this show, and you're talking about continuing to learn. And I was just thinking, like, how awesome that it is that I found a job or a business that I enjoy so much, that when I listen to Podnutz and other tech related podcasts and read up and experiment and play, it's all totally related to what I do. So it makes it so, like, there's times when I'm working, I don't feel like sitting at my desk and removing a virus or whatever, but most of what I do falls totally in line with stuff I'd be doing anyway, just playing around, screwing around on my time off while I was doing the job that I didn't like. So that also definitely makes it a lot easier to run a business when you start feeling the grind.
I think passion also equates into taking failure as a learning experience, or learning from failure versus being defeated. So when you're passionate about something, your failures are just, you don't assign blame to other people. You just tend to take it as learning, and then you pick it up and move on when you're passionate about it.
Oh, you know what the thing though with that is, I'm never wrong. I have been mistaken before, but I'm never wrong.
I can't even do that jokingly on the live show.
I thought you just always blamed Paco.
I blame whoever's on the show. I don't have to. I'm not responsible for anything. Like I told you guys, I play Attack on TV. That's all.
It wasn't us that couldn't find the button, Jeff.
Right. It was all the Googles.
Oh, Google, we love you and hate you at the same time. So, anyways,
and live show ends.
Yeah, no kidding. So, Yeah, so I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I encourage everybody to consistently, like each one of these guys have been saying, continually learn, continually look at the things that, hey, I really get excited about doing this. I'm good at taking apart laptops, but I will tell you this I just took apart an HP and I was going, HP, are you kidding me? I don't understand why you would do this.
I'm sure that's not the language you used, but okay.
Well, okay. There's all these screws on the bottom. No big deal. I'm taking the screws out. And then there's 2 screws that are covered by a sticker. And I'm thinking, why? Why would you do that? Well, they did it because they don't want the average person taking it apart. Fortunately, I have the tools to pop that little sticker out of there without damaging it too much to take 2 screws out. And then I've got to take the whole bottom of this case off by sliding it off and back towards the screen because it comes up around the edges. It's just unbelievable. Why not just make a cover that you unscrew from the bottom and you pull it out? And then everything is attached to the top of this platform. Paco, the laptops that you love with the keyboard like stuck inside that top plate with 10,000 screws, right? Yeah, it's horrible. And so I'm looking at this and I go, the reason I had to take this laptop apart, somebody spilled water on it. But I didn't get the full story. I'm taking it apart. I saw water on the outside edges, but I don't really see anything on the inside. But I still have to take the motherboard off, look at it underneath, see if there's any corrosion or anything that I can see, any watermarks, in order to clean this thing. And it's such a pain. And then you basically got to take the whole thing apart to get to the hard drive because everything's attached to the top of this form factor. So anyways.
Yeah, that's why I've kind of started liking doing the business class laptops, and I'm just starting to try and push those, at least the refurb or recertified ones, to my customers who are thinking about getting a replacement for theirs because it's so much easier to repair. The ThinkPads, the Elite books, the what's the Dell one? John, help me out here. I can't think of it right now.
Latitude.
Thank you. The Latitudes. I mean, it's a series of screws, metal case, pops off, get all the stuff right there. Elite books, 2 clips, pop them out. Same thing with the ThinkPads. ThinkPads are a little bit more in-depth, but several screws, pop it off with a pry bar. You're good to go. All the stuff is there. So that's what I've started. That's a learning thing that I found for myself to try and start pushing some of those for my clients because it just makes it easier for me. And it goes back to what we were saying before. Trying to make things easier for you will make things easier for your customer.
Right.
Yeah. I've heard somebody say that before.
Yeah. Very wise man. Very wise man.
You owe me a nickel.
Buffalo nickel?
Every time you said it.
I had a business client recently asked me about a laptop recommendation. She's like, I want something really light. I'm like, okay, you get something real thin and light. And then just know that in a couple of years when something goes wrong with it, you're just going to throw it away because, I'm not going to open it for you.
Exactly. All right. I think we're going to move on here real quick. I know we ran a little bit short today because we had some technical difficulties, but Lisa from Call That Girl is calling in. So we're going to go ahead and take this phone call. Hey, Lisa, how you doing?
Hey, guys.
Jello.
Good. I'm listening on the camera. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because I got I'm watching you and listening on my phone, so sorry.
Gotcha.
So, Mark, what I've been listening to, I love this topic, you guys, because I've niched out, and it is so challenging with all the tech changes going on out there to stay on top of everything. So everything you guys have been saying is so right on top of what's going on right now. The Windows 10 issues is when people start calling me for an Outlook issue. Then they say, hey, while you're in there, can you take a look at this printer? I'm like, well, I'm not really a printer expert anymore. So I use that as my guide to get out of a job.
That's
Does
good.
that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's good thinking there. So you don't jump on that job because you go, hey, I can make a little bit more money.
No, absolutely not. Because in fact, the last time I had a client that wanted printer help, I actually said that. She was like, well, I already paid you for some prepaid time, so I want to make sure that I use that with you. And I said, but I'm going to tell you now that a printer repair can go 2 to 3 hours with Windows 10 and all the driver issues. And after an hour and a half, she was like, "Did I use all my prepay money?" I'm like, "No, but we're going to be at that 4-hour mark here soon because I'm not a printer expert."
Right.
So I kind of told her in the beginning, you have to manage the expectations. If you're not good at something, don't jump in and think you can do it, because you're going to come into snags that you just can't sometimes get out of.
Right. Exactly.
And then, and then you're expected to fix it. So I always learn, like, what's in my funnel and what's not, and you're best off referring it out or whatever. So I just wanted to, just chime in to say that, because that's a good way to get out of something, is using the word, "I'm not an expert."
Very good. Well, glad to hear that. I'm glad you.
Yeah. Well.
Good to hear your voice again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I catch the shows on Sundays if I can, if I'm around, and I was just going to do a show myself here, but then I kind of had a mind melt, so I decided not to do one.
Well, it sounds good. Well, thank you for calling in, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Sure. See you guys.
See ya.
Have a good show.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, very good points there.
Actually, a great point. What is it? Not all business is good business.
Right.
Isn't that the way the
exactly
whatever slogan goes, or whatever it is? Advice.
Now, how tempting would it be, though? You're working on something for a customer, and they say, "Can you look at this other issue?" And what do most of us do?
Oh, I've been there. I can't imagine how much times what I've said. Oh,
Right.
And I'm like 5 seconds later, I'm in the bathroom punching myself in the head. What
Exactly. What did I say yes for? What did I say yes for? Stop it. Oh man, no, that's good.
I have to like I have like a almost like a mantra that I have to stick in my head. Is like, I'll take a look at it and we'll see what we can do, instead of saying, "Oh yeah, I can get that," because my automatic response is like, "I got it." Now I'm all like, "Well, yeah, we'll take a look," and I gotta like tell myself to say that so that I can always back out. Like, I take a look at it and go, "Oh no, this is not something I want to do." This is
Well, and it comes down to, it's like when somebody says, "This is the problem I'm having," and my response always now is, first I listen to them. Okay, yeah, we can do such and such a fix for this price. Now I just go, I won't know until I look at it. Once I look at it, then I can give you an idea of what we're looking at, and we'll see if you want to go with the fix. It's not a big deal to me, but I need to look at it, because 9 times out of 10, whatever you're telling me is wrong, you're wrong.
I get that all the time with either email submissions or phone calls. I just want to know how much it's going to be. I wish I could tell you, but it may be this, it may be that. I'm going to throw so many numbers at you, you're probably going to pick the lowest one and then try and hold me to it. So let me do it for this amount for the diagnostic. If you're committed to that, then we can go and see to let you know what your options are.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah. I just stumbled on this too. Here's a couple examples. Taking on a project with a client who is hard-nosed or cheap. That'd be a good reason to say no. Taking on a project that has a very poor definition. A lot of that would come down to like timing that we talked about too, with scheduling. Taking on a project that is a good bit out of your sweet spot. Taking on a project or a client that moves your company and its resources in a direction you don't want to go. Taking on a project despite warning bells or good judgment, and trying to compete in an area where you don't have strengths, I guess.
Right.
So I'll put that in the show notes.
Awesome. And not to say that you can't say, okay, I want to move into this arena, because I know I made that statement earlier and I was kind of boisterous about it. That's just me. But you want to move into an area in doing a certain type of business because you think you would either like it, or you maybe think that that's what you would like to do or move your business to. And it's okay to maybe take a loss, but use it as a learning platform, as long as it's not something that's, some big company that's going to go, "Oh, you lost all my stuff." And again, you want to make sure that you do your due diligence. And a lot of us, backing up things and getting all that stuff done, that's basic stuff. So most of us can do that. But going in there and going, okay, I don't know exactly how this works, but I can make it work. It might just take me a little bit extra time. Now, because of you're on your learning curve, you're not going to be able to charge that premium that you want to charge. You go, "Hey, I'm going to learn from this." That's okay. So you can do those types of things. You're not pigeonholed into just doing whatever you fell into first. So I don't want everybody to get stuck there.
I try to set up some kind of a lab or a demo or an experiment on my own before I do something that I charge for. It's not always possible because like a server, if you're going to try to get into like server maintenance, you can find ways to do, buy demos or, use the free 90-day demo of Microsoft's server and do things like that. But at some point, the server costs $5,000 to purchase and get licensed and get up and running. And that's not something you're just going to like play with.
Right.
So there's kind of limits, but for the most part, I mean, that's partly why I'm screwing with all the little Hue light bulb and little things like that. Cause at some point it might be something cool that I can do for a client. And also, it's just fun for me, but you just play with stuff. And then like, I know, cause I took apart an iPod touch and tried to replace the battery, that I will never charge somebody for that. Cause that iPod touch is now sleeping with the fishes.
I would rather stick 2 forks in my eye than actually do an iPod ever again.
2.
Yeah.
2, not just 1. Oh, either that or use a spoon.
Bamboo shoots.
And why would you use a spoon, Jeff? Because it hurts more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Spork.
Spork. Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, is there anything else we haven't covered in this particular topic? We can probably move on to let's move on to one email here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this is a follow-up, and I wanted to let everybody know where we're at after a couple weeks. And this one comes from Robert Moore. It says, hey, Jeff, just got done with the nuke and pave. After spending many hours on this, there is a mix of news. After dinner, I got back to working on the machine from hell. Initially, that's how you use it properly, John. Initially, when John mentioned the Surface Recover link that he put in the show notes, I had a bad feeling. I already looked at that link, and the instructions, they tell you to go to your Surface and create a recovery disk image. Then copy the zip file into the image. Then use Rufus to create the bootable USB. I figured out that was a no-go, cannot use a Surface. However, what they don't tell you, and I decided, what the heck, can't hurt. You can also use any Windows 10 machine to create the recovery image and then copy the downloaded zip file into the image. So now I have a working recovery disk. Yay. Getting close to the light, except no files. So he couldn't get into his Surface because even though the password didn't change, his password was not working on that machine. It was working on other machines, so he knows the password was good. He says, I couldn't give up. I searched several hours and played with many options, including Linux. Sorry, Jeff. Yeah, that's okay. But all attempts to boot up to anything except the recovery media failed. So I decided I had enough. I put the recovery media in and fired up the device, answered a couple of questions, and went to the recovery options. There was an advanced button. I like advanced. So I pressed it. Lo and behold, there was a system restore and several other buttons, including command prompt. Smile. So I entered the command prompt, no password request. It couldn't really give me access to the drives, could it? Yep. I have my files safely on my working system. After getting my files, I checked and decided to take any data files to be safe. I decided to try system restore. All 3 of them failed to restore, so nuke and pave. Now, just have to get everything back in order, but light is definitely bright. Once again, I thank you guys at Podnutz. You guys were awesome and helped me through this ordeal. I look forward to your shows and maybe even helping or participating sometime soon. Thanks again, Robert Moore, More Services. Thank you again, Robert. Appreciate the follow-up on that. And you really know how to articulate well and let us know exactly all the stuff that you did. So there's a lot of good tidbits in there of how you can actually get a Surface back up and running. And actually, not only that, but get your files back even when you can't log in with a password. Is that surprising to you, John? You might need to unmute yourself or we can't hear you.
I mean, the new rules. I'm just following the new rules. Mute when you're not on. Jesus Christ. Well, I mean, you get a little bit of luck anytime you do this stuff. If you can get your data back, and it's the last resort, amen. I'm a little confused by one thing he said in there. Because if you do go to the surface recovery image page, you can download the full surface recovery image for a model. So if you just put in the model you have and your serial number, you can download the 7.6 gigabyte image or whatever for that model. So
okay.
He said he tried that and that did not work for him. So I'm a little confused about that. But
now, when you make the image, did you have to use something like Rufus in order to make it a bootable USB?
Now you're trying to make me.
I'm just wondering if you remember.
I'd have to go back and look at the page. I don't remember exactly what I did. But, you get a 7 or 8 gigabyte download from that page built just for your Surface 3 or your Surface Pro or your Surface Book.
Okay.
And it's got the OS and it's got all the drivers and firmware and all that built into that for that Surface.
Okay.
So I don't remember if I had to use Rufus or not. I'd have to go back on that page and look. But I'll put that page in the show notes again.
Okay. And the other thing too is because we were talking about this last week, talking about using Windows 10 on another machine for that Surface Pro and making an image.
Well, that's good news that he got that to work.
Yeah.
So that's sweet.
So that's surprising. Yeah, yay for Microsoft. They've done something right, even though it took them several hours to figure it out. But hopefully this information will help others out as far as if you ever run into this problem, there is a solution out there. There's a couple of them that you can at least go down that rabbit trail and figure out if that's going to work for you. Very cool. All right, let's see if we can answer another email. All right, this is a short one. It says, hey, Jeff, I know this is a solution for after the fact, but uBlock Origin is great at blocking the pop-up scams from happening. I include this in all of our complete internet security packages. So I'm supposing that's his RMM tool of choice and so on and so forth, antivirus, yada, yada, yada. And I wrote him back, and this was from Adam Carpenter. Appreciate that, Adam. I wrote him back and said, I've heard from other technicians that basically they've tried uBlock Origin, and those 1-800 number pop-ups still end up coming up periodically on their customers' machines. So, again, I don't know. I haven't used it, so I don't know. But he wrote me back, and he says, as we all know, nothing is 100%, but we haven't had a single customer on our CIS plan with uBlock Origin, over 150 users, come back after installing uBlock in our CIS. Obviously, this is a layered approach. That's where I got the layered approach thing from. See, I steal people's stuff all the time. But I have to believe that it is helping because, like you said, it's almost impossible to train users. I don't think they are changing their habits, and if they are, it's only for a short time. Love the show. Appreciate that again, Adam. And yes, you're right. And that's why I do think that as long as you can, I told him I'm a little wary of using free things because we've ran into this problem with, WOT, Web of Trust, right? Where all of a sudden, hey, we're selling your data. Now, why we're all surprised at that, I have no clue. Because if you put it out there, you're getting it for free, you're giving up something. Either today or tomorrow. Fram oil filter, man. You pay me now or you pay me later, but you will pay, period. So as long as you live by that rule and understand that stuff could change, it could break 150 plus systems, and you've got to go in, and now you're scrambling to fix all those. John and I have been talking about this over the last, probably like I said, last few months. He said last year, but basically is less is more. And so there's kind of a balance here. I don't know what the best approach is, but we do want to protect our customers. I just don't know how much stuff you want to put in there to protect them, especially if it's free. But anyway,
allow me to unmute myself and make a comment.
Go ahead. You're learning well. You can be learned.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I really like uBlock Origin, and it sounds like they're out rolling out as part of a management platform, and I would suggest uBlock would be a great thing to do that way. I don't know if I would ever unleash uBlock on end users without help, because AdBlock Plus you can kind of throw on there, and it just kind of does its basics without getting in the way too much.
Right.
uBlock, I would suggest, is much more customizable and has a lot more features, but users can't use Chrome, let alone add in a couple extensions. So, in his managed platform, I agree with him. Layered approach, perfect. Why not add another layer? So
absolutely.
Web of Trust was one of the only things that we actually universally use. I mean, pretty much every computer I touch, I was putting that on there because it's so stupid simple. Like, there's a little green circle, that's okay. Red circle, don't click it. And then it has that kind of intercept page if you do click on something that is suspicious or flagged as bad. And it'll say, hey, do you really want to do that? And so it was just like a free, easy thing that customers didn't really need much teaching, and it never caused any support issues. Now it's, I mean, if you've got it, you've got it, but you can't get it if you don't have it already, for now at least.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll fix whatever it is they're going to be doing. But once you have burned the trust of your user base, and again, I tell people all the time, man, listen, okay, if you want free things, you try going out there and doing computer repair and don't charge nothing. Hey, I just like it because makes me feel good. Because the next time feeling good actually puts money on your plate and food in your mouth, I mean, yeah, it's not happening. So definitely take that to heart. All right, let's see what else we got. Oh, we'll handle another email. We'll go a little bit longer. John, I know you said you have to go at 5:30.
5-minute warning. 5:35.
All right, cool. So let's answer this other email while we've got them up and running. This says, hi, Jeff. Hope all is good. I was on a show a few months ago. Cormac from Crosshaven Computers. Yes, I remember. Just a quick question for the boys and yourself. Just wondering what sort of software ye all are using for data recovery. I don't know if you put ye in there or I misprinted it. Doesn't matter. Also, before we do that, could you give a shout out for Colin Baker from Back from the Future.ie, another Irishman who was on the show a few weeks after me. I just want to thank him for showing me around the shop and giving me great advice. I love how people from this show help each other out. Thanks, Cormac O'Donoghue. And they say all Irish people have a bad temper. Come on. No, I love that about this show, that people can be anywhere around the world, and you've got somebody close to you, you go visit them, and they're like, hey, check this out. Look at this. Look what I'm doing here. This is the power of the community. But let's go back to the question. What are you guys using for data recovery on a consistent basis?
Prayer.
Yeah.
Does that work?
What kind of data recovery are we talking about? I mean,
it's kind of it's hard. There's a lot of
data. I mean, if somebody brings you a drive and says, I need my data off here, what are you using to get that data back?
Well, the first question is, how important is this data? Because am I, as a non-data recovery expert, I mean, it's not my primary thing that I do. My first consideration is, am I going to cause more damage than good if I can't get the data? Am I going to make somebody else not going to be able to get the data? Or is it just responsible of me to turn it over to drive savers, Gilware, my hard drive died, whomever, at the first shot?
Well, and you're coming from a different standpoint, right? Because you, on your customers' computers, you have backups going.
I do.
So there's your data recovery. You're using a backup solution that says, hey, we can get our data back from Carbonite or whomever else you're using.
Yeah, I hit restore.
There you go. That's good.
As an example, I had a residential customer. He had 3 Western Digital external desktop hard drives that were basically like, they weren't his backups. Those were his prime. That's what somebody told him to use, like, to expand the storage. And each of them had a purpose. One was movies, one was music, one was pictures, like family photos. And all 3 of them were hosted. So he hands them to me in a box, and he's like, I need to get all this data. I was also setting up a NAS for him and stuff, and I wanted to get it, we were moving it all over onto the NAS. So I'm like, okay, so these are pictures of your kids and like your grandkids and stuff. And I don't like, so would you pay $800 if it came to it to get this back? And he said, yes. I said, okay, well then I'm not touching this one. This one's going right to my data recovery guy. And then the other 2, I'll give it a shot. I might hose these in the process, but yeah, if there's something there we can get back, we'll get it back. And for that, I usually start with Linux. Like I try to boot, I load up, launch it in Linux, and then I see what I can pull, because a lot of times if you launch it in Windows, sometimes it's not going to read it or not see it or whatever, and Linux tends to be a little bit more reliable with that. And then if I have to, I like SpinRite. I know John's mentioned that a few times. If I know that it's okay that the drive crashes, we've already had that conversation, I'll totally run SpinRite on a drive on level 2 and see what comes back. Usually it does wonders. I run SpinRite all the time. I love SpinRite. I clean up slow junk, like computers that are running slow, run SpinRite on the drive. Usually you'll kick it up about 20% in performance and stuff like that. So
now in those cases,
Brad made. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to say one thing. I'm going to let you go, Jeff. I think Brad made the point. The first question I would ask is, how much are you willing to pay to get this back?
Yes.
If they say, well, you can spend an hour on it, or you can bill me for an hour of your time, or yes, we'll spend $800 plus for recovery. To answer the question, if I do a data recovery, I use the software by Runtime Software, get data back. That's usually the product I go to.
Okay. Good.
So, and I'll put that in show notes. But guys, I got to go. Thank you very much. Everybody take care.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time again.
Appreciate it. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Have a good one. All right. And Paco, what do you use?
I use RStudio.
Okay.
For my data recovery. Similar process. I let them know there's 3 tiers. It's either regular transfer, data recovery software, or send out to Gilware is who we use for the high-end stuff.
Okay.
I'll pop it in my toaster, have auto mount disabled in Windows, run RStudio, see if it pops up. If it pops up, it reads over, and I can open the actual drive. I'll pull the data off that way. If I pull it off and it starts to ask me for a scan, then I will let the customer know, hey, look, are you willing to pay anywhere from, like, kind of what Brad was saying, $450 to $1,500, depending on whatever Gilware says for that size, type of drive, whatever it is. And if they tell me no, then it's okay. We can try this. It may take a little bit of time. It's not a foolproof thing. It may not even be all your data, but we can try and do it this way. And they'll say yes or no, and kind of go from there. So, okay. There was a software I used to use. I haven't used it in a while because I haven't got the updated version of it. It was HDD Regenerator, which is similar to SpinRite.
Okay.
But it's a Windows app. I'm not sure if SpinRite is a Windows app. I think it's just a bootable.
SpinRite runs on DOS.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there you go.
Very cool. And I use Reclaim Me Pro. You can find that at reclaimme-pro.com. It works fine for me, and I think a lot of these softwares are similar. It all depends on what you want to do and how much you want. I've had old drives that I've pulled in, and okay, how important is this drive? And the other thing that I always do is I always make an image of the whole drive before I try to do any fixes on it, because if you don't have that image and it starts to go, then you got nothing to work with. If you have an image, at least you can go in and try to extract data from that image. So that's something to remember too. And I use a bench machine with I've got a little disk cache or whatever you want to call it, where you can put the disk right into the computer and it's hooked right up to the SATA on the motherboard itself. I don't use the eSATA or USB 3 anymore. I've found over the years, both of those tend to be wonky at certain times, not always, but they tend to be that way. With the SATA cable, as long as the drive's spinning, I've really had no issues. I use the Windows operating system. Every once in a while, I'll use a Linux distro, could be Ubuntu or whatever. Really, I've ran into that on weird Western Digital drives that basically have a USB dongle soldered to the firmware board, and you've got to plug those into the computer. And a lot of times, for whatever that firmware is proprietary, and if the part of it that it needs to read on that disk, that Windows needs to read, is not there, it won't read it. But you can plug it into a Linux system, and the Linux system will look at it as just basically raw data. is what it looks. And then you can go and pull the data off, piece at a time or whatever, folders at a time, and get all the information and then move it over to another drive.
And that's exactly what happened with that story that I was telling. He had those those 3 Western Digital drives. If I popped them out and hooked them directly up into my bench machine with a direct SATA connection and then ran Linux, I got all the stuff back. Well, a lot of it. Some of the drives were also kind of thrashed, but.
Oh, okay. And all right, I think we'll leave that one for next time. I think we're going to end off here. There's a couple of topics that have come up. We've talked a little bit about trying to block the ransomware scammers and some of the companies that are so-called legit that may even be in the United States that are running these scams. Maybe we'll get into a topic down the road about that. I've got a couple stories. Maybe I can get a couple people to come on and actually tell their story about what was going on and what they did to help to try to protect their customers. This is happening more and more, and things are looking legit. And to a certain extent, it's even hard to fight some of these things where people have gotten scammed, but it's actually a legitimate company and they've done legitimate things. It's just, that they're not doing everything exactly correct. So, but maybe we'll get into that subject down the road. We've got some other things. All right. So I'll tell you what, Brad, if people want to find out more about you, where would they go?
Oh, people don't want to know anything more about me. If you go to my website, ttcscomputerservices.com, you can email me at brad@ttcscomputerservices.com.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, it was fun.
Paco, where can people find out more about you?
They can find me here live at 3 p.m. Central every Sunday night or Sunday afternoon-ish there at the Podnutz Live Computer Repair Show. You can also find me every Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when Matthew Rodella releases our podcast, over at YFNCG on the Computer Business Podcast.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming out again. All right, come join us live for the Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/Computer Repair Podcast Live. Join in on the conversation by calling in live and hanging out in the chat room. We have audio available over at podnutz.com or subscribe using your favorite podcatcher. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Computer Repair Podcast. Send your questions and feedback to podnutz@podnutz.com. Leave a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. If we have helped you in any way, please consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/Computer Repair Podcast. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast.